Federal prosecutors have cut a deal with a New York man accused of flying to Montana to buy guns for a terror attack. Coming up, what that deal could reduce the man's jail time.
And a new poll shows Montana Governor Steve Bullock's presidential ambitions are yet to take hold with voters across the country. Why Bullock says he still thinks he would make a good choice for Democrats is also coming up.
Good morning to you and welcome to your Tuesday. It is 6:30 on the dot. I'm Missy O'Malley with Chet Lehman. Matt Elwell has our forecast here in just a moment for you. As we mentioned a moment ago, a man in trouble for making terrorist threats about a mass shooting after traveling to Montana is now set to change his plea to a pair of charges in U.S. District Court.
Fabian Alametti was arrested last spring at a Bozeman gun range. Prosecutors say Alametti, who is originally from New York, came under FBI surveillance after he reportedly made threats about joining ISIS and seeking retaliation for attacks that killed dozens of Muslims in New Zealand. Prosecutors say he flew to Montana apparently because he thought it was easier to obtain firearms, and was subsequently arrested after he went to a firing range to rent a gun.
Now, Alametti had denied the charges and was set to go on trial this fall, but now he's scheduled to appear in U.S. District Court in Missoula tomorrow to accept a plea deal to 2 counts of making a false statement to a federal officer in a matter involving terrorism. Now, if the court accepts, prosecutors will drop the 2 additional charges. Each count carries a penalty of 8 years in prison and a $250,000 fine.
In other court news, a Bozeman man faces charges after he allegedly assaulted a police officer over the weekend. 46-year-old Dylan Pinette was stopped for riding a motorized scooter while under the influence.
Now, according to court charging documents, Pinette proceeded to give false information about his name and attempted to walk away from officers after they informed him he was under arrest. Pinette then began to physically resist arrest and punched an officer 4 to 5 times in the face. And officers tried to gain control of him. Another officer tased him and ordered him to restrain.
Pinette was on probation and parole for criminal endangerment after a similar incident back in September of 2018. His court date has been set for September 13th.
And police in Butte have released the name of a motorcycle crash victim.
Yeah, the fatal crash happened on Saturday at about 1:30 in the morning. Rider has been identified as 30-year-old Sean Doherty of Butte. Police say Doherty lost control of his motorcycle while riding along Grand Avenue. That case still is under investigation.
And 2 hardened men who were killed when a semi crashed head-on into their vehicle on Sunday, they are also now identified.
Also, details out yesterday reveal the driver of that semi was a 17-year-old boy from Hardin. Bighorn County Coroner Terry Bullock says the crash killed both the driver, 58-year-old Thomas Tosher, and his backseat passenger, 67-year-old Jerry Lively. A woman passenger was also injured when that southbound semi-truck slid into the northbound lane on Highway 313 between Hardin and St. Xavier Sunday afternoon.
The Montana Highway Patrol says the 17-year-old semi-truck driver was hauling an empty grain trailer.
6:33 now. Meteorologist Matt Elwell steps in to join us, and fall is in full swing, at least today, at this moment.
At least
outside.
It feels like
it's
it, yeah.
a little
It feels
brisk, yeah.
pretty chilly. I think you're going to want the jackets if you're going to
sure.
spend some time outside in the early morning. The afternoon's going to be fabulous. I do expect daytime highs once again to be warming up. 43 in Belgrade, 27 in West Yellowstone, 38 in Butte. We're sitting at 44 in Dillon. Clear skies allowing these temperatures to cool off early on in the day. Nice warm up as you head through the morning and early afternoon. Sunny and mild as you move through the mid-afternoon and early evening. It's going to be mainly sunny for us for the next couple of days, but we're not without our rain chances this week. We'll talk about the timing of all that, of course, in just a few minutes.
My 2 favorite people, Sunny and Mild.
Sunny and
I love them. Yeah. Glad they're back.
Money and Siled. That's right, that's right. Taxpayers in Bozeman will be saving money on the $125 million bond issue for the new high school and renovations to Bozeman High. The reason? Low interest rates.
Yeah, school board met yesterday and unanimously approved the second sale of bonds, and reports that taxpayers will be saving roughly $35 million in interest costs. The taxpayer impact that voters approved in 2017 was expected to be around $7 per $100,000 of assessed home value. It's now gone down to around $4.60 a month.
So one of the real interesting points is that really I think the taxpayers have seen the worst of the bond issue. So it's only going to get better now because as new properties are built in our community, those go on the tax rolls and they share the burden of paying the taxes.
By the way, the final batch of bonds will be paid off 16 years to help reduce those interest costs.
And just days after the Shepherd School superintendent was suspended for conduct that violated district policy, last night the school board named an interim replacement.
Shepherd School Board appointed Dre O'Donnell, the district's curriculum director, as the interim superintendent. O'Donnell expressed concern to the board that taking on this added responsibility could impact her current already full workload. However, this decision comes after two-year Superintendent Scott Carter was placed on administrative leave with pay last week.
Carter came forward over the weekend with a post on the school's Facebook admitting he had, quote, violated the trust of the community after he was drinking late Wednesday and showed up at the school on Thursday smelling like alcohol.
In other news, Montana Governor Steve Bullock has been getting a lot of national face time in his run for president, but Bullock is still virtually invisible with most Democratic voters.
Bullock had an hour to himself on Sunday for the town hall on CNN, again portraying himself as the candidate who can win in a red state and also distancing himself from other Democratic candidates who would essentially do away with private health insurance. He also reiterated that he would not run for Senate if he doesn't win the presidential nomination. Now, a new Monmouth poll came out yesterday showing Bullock was still less than 1% with Democratic voters.
Shifting gears just a bit now, trade of American agricultural products to Japan could be a saving point for auto exports from Japan to the United States. The
agreement was announced on Sunday, but nothing has been signed yet. Now, in that agreement, Tokyo's tariffs on American beef, pork, and other products would be slashed. The president said Japan would purchase large quantities of American wheat and corn.
That would also delay the chance of additional levies on Japanese auto exports to the States. This agreement comes after President Trump hit Japan's steel and aluminum exports with tariffs in 2018 and threatened to do the same with cars imported to the United States. Final details on this trade proposal are expected to be finalized in September.
And it is an expensive aircraft used by many branches of the armed forces, and it wouldn't be possible without a Montana-based company.
Oh, it is beautiful. MTN's Jacob Fuhrer tells us about the F-35 fighter jet and a crucial component made in Helena.
It's one of the U.S. government's biggest and most expensive defense projects to date. It's also branded as the most lethal.
We're not looking for a fair fight. We're looking for superiority, overwhelming force.
Defense giant Lockheed Martin gave congressional leaders and reporters a virtual look at its fifth-generation fighter jet, the F-35 Lightning II, capable of reaching supersonic speeds and equipped with the latest technology. One of the key advantages of this next-generation aircraft is its stealth mode, the ability to enter enemy airspace without being detected by radar.
The element of surprise that F-35 affords the United States, as well as its allies and partners, is immeasurable.
While these fighter jets come with a hefty price tag, congressional leaders said they're also creating jobs and bringing money into Montana. Helena-based Pioneer Aerostructures makes the bulkheads that support the F-35.
We estimate there's 190 direct and indirect jobs produced because of what's going on right now with Pioneer Aerospace. That's a $16 million economic impact for the state of Montana.
Pioneer is one of 3 Montana companies with contracts to provide parts for the aircraft.
And it's now on the shoulders of Congress to ensure that we buy enough of these aircraft and deliver them fast enough.
And that has long been the challenge. The F-35 has come under intense scrutiny after delays in production and cost overruns. The company says things have improved and the price of the aircraft will only come down as more are made. Senator Daines, who sits on both the Senate Finance and Appropriations Committees, told reporters Monday he'll hold defense leaders accountable.
Well, we hold the Department of Defense accountable in terms of ensuring they meet both cost targets and project timing targets.
And while Montana may help manufacture the parts, there are no current plans to station an F-35 at Malmstrom Air Force Base. But Cascade County Commissioner Jim Larson has been lobbying hard to change that.
Still a long ways from completion, but at least there is discussion.
In Helena, Jacob Fuhrer, MTN News.
Now also, Lockheed Martin plans to ship more than 130 F-35s this year and ramp up production in the coming years.
That is your dream right there.
I love that.
Sit in that simulator and just...
or the real thing, it'd be fine
or
too.
the real thing,
Yeah,
or the
that's
real
it.
thing,
Yeah,
or the
there you
real
go.
thing. We do have to take a quick break.